Welcome to Compassionate Heart Parenting. I'm Michelle. If you've ever snapped at your kids and then felt the wave of guilt afterward, or wondered why you reacted that way, you're not alone. After 15 years as an emotionally focused therapist, I have learned that parenting brings up emotions we didn't even know we were carrying. Here, we'll explore what's beneath those reactions and the small shifts that can help you respond with more calm and connection. Hello. If your child's big emotions sometimes leave you feeling overwhelmed, unsure what to do, or even a little scared of what might happen next, you're not alone. Those moments can feel intense. But what if they're actually an opportunity? In today's episode, you'll learn how your child's biggest upsets can become a gateway to deeper connection and healing, and how staying steady in those moments as parents can transform your relationship with your children. I am joined by parent educator and certified hand-in-hand and aware parenting coach, Helena Mooney, who will help us understand what's really happening underneath our child's big behavior, big feelings, how to manage your own emotions so you as the parent can be calm and anchor your child's need, and why connection, play, and even simple games like chasing or hide and seek are powerful tools for helping emotions move through. So, if you've ever wondered how to respond when the tears, anger, or frustration show up, and how to help your child through them without losing yourself in the process, this is the conversation for you. So, Helena, I'm so glad you're here. Many parents feel overwhelmed when their child has huge emotions like yelling, crying, meltdowns. I mean, I know these are still sometimes overwhelming for me, and I've done a lot of work around it. So, what's something that you wish parents understood about these moments?
First of all, hello. Thank you so much for having me
Hi.
on. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I think they're not always to be avoided. Tantrums are actually really healthy. They're really important because and if you can stay steady, I like that terminology you're saying, staying steady, which is so much easier said than done. But you can help your child release the upset that they're carrying, because all children carry upset feelings. Even if they're having the nicest life, there's going to be things that upset them. And so these feelings accumulate. And then instead of our children just calmly saying, Mummy, I'm really angry about this, or Mum, I'm really sad, they don't do that. They go, I don't want that plate. Give me another plate. They become so irrational about teeny tiny things. And then we're just like, what on earth is going on with you? How dare you be so disrespectful? Don't be such a brat. Oh my, I'm raising you wrong. All of these things. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, what we really need to do is just allow the storm to happen, to allow our child to completely fall apart about the wrong colored plate,
Mm-hmm.
because our children can't articulate it. They often don't know what's wrong. And even if they did, it's hard to articulate. Even when they are articulate and have their words, that they just
Mm-hmm.
know that they feel awful.
Mm-hmm.
And so having like giving them the wrong colored plate,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's the plate that you have given them day in, day out, and that that they love, that is
Mm-hmm.
something tangible that they can get upset about. So in hand, we call it a pretext. We can call it various different things, but really it's something tangible that acts then as a catalyst for your child's feelings to come out. So what can normally happen is that we can panic and go, oh my, okay, okay, you're a different color plate, and I'm using the plate example because I had this prime example with my
Mm-hmm.
own child who was 3 at the time. And I'd been working really hard, so I hadn't been very attentive to her. It's ironic that I'm a parenting coach, and when I'm working on my parenting work, my own child gets a bit neglected. Anyway, so I had a big event that I was running, and so I had a couple of weeks where I was really manic. And then after the event on the Monday, I said, right, sweetie, it's just going to be you and me. And I
Mm-hmm.
made her the nicest food that I knew that she liked. I got her the pink plate with the pink,
Mm-hmm.
everything else like that. She went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this plate. Get me another plate. And initially I panicked and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh God, because I wanted this to be a nice day. And I could hear myself going, well, in my head, I'm thinking you're spoiling this, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to give you my attention after all this time. And then
Right.
I suddenly went, ah, it's not about the plate.
Right.
So then what I did was I then just said, sweetheart, I'm not going to get another plate. You
Mm-hmm.
can go and get another plate. Like I wasn't being punitive and saying you're not allowed another plate. I said, you're very welcome to go and get another plate.
Mm-hmm.
But I just stayed calm. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm prefacing this by saying I don't stay calm all the time. So
Right.
this we need to make the most of the times when we are calm. But I could stay calm and present, and I
Mm-hmm.
could just say, sweetheart, I'm not getting you another plate, but you can get another one.
Mm-hmm.
Huge meltdown about this plate, begging me, pleading me, please go and get another plate, demanding, all the things that you would, sort of call brattish behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But it allowed her to get upset and to offload her upset feelings about the fact that I was absent, essentially. I was really busy. I wasn't able to give her all the attention. She went to preschool, so there was stuff going on there, just normal life. And so
Right.
she could then have a massive cry about the wrong cut of plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go on for quite a while. And instead of, and that's why we don't need to fix it. I could have gone and got another plate, but then 5 minutes later, she would have got upset about something else. So, and
Mm-hmm.
then afterwards, like, it was an enormous storm. And then afterwards, we had the best day because
Mm-hmm.
she had released her upset feelings. She wasn't carrying them anymore. She could connect.
Mm-hmm.
She could feel my love again. Everything
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah, I love that example. And I love what you said about make the most of the moments that we can stay calm because we're not always going to be able to stay calm. I've like spent years working on just trying to stay calm, and I'm not always able to stay calm. And you're saying you're a parenting coach, you're not always able to stay calm. And I love that there are times when we can stay calm and we can make the most of those moments. And the other thing I hear you saying is, which this is true with adults too, right? That we get mad about one thing, we snap at our kids, like this is when I notice, and then I realize like, why am I snapping? Oh yeah, I'm really overwhelmed or I'm really tired. I'm really upset about this other thing that's happening. And so you're saying that kids get upset about the plate because it's something to get upset about. And in this case with your daughter, it was almost like you could translate. She was saying, Mom, I'm so mad that you were gone all day yesterday. And Mom, I wish you were here. And Mom, that would made me so angry. And Mom, I, wanted you to be here and you weren't. But because she was 3, and even older kids
Yeah.
have trouble with this too. I think we just have an unrealistic expectation of how well kids can communicate. And even, because as adults, we struggle with this too. That you were like, okay, this isn't about the plate. So I'm not going to like, oh, let me make sure I give you the right plate. And I'm also not going to say, shut it down and say, absolutely not. It's not okay for you to talk to me like that because that wouldn't have allowed her to move through the sad and upset and angry feelings. You're just like, yeah, you're going to have the blue plate. No, no, no. You're going to have the blue plate. And so then she could just be angry and upset and you could listen. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it's so counterintuitive, I think. This might be for some parents that have been like kind of learning about this, it might be a reminder. And for some parents, it might be brand new information. So I'm wondering what shifts for parents do when they start seeing big emotions differently, what shifts start to happen? When they move from seeing it as bad behavior, disrespectful, you know, inappropriate, like those kind of things to, okay, these are big emotions. Like what happens when they start to make that shift?
Well, you stop then fighting your child, essentially,
Mm,
because your child doesn't have the filter. They don't have the mask. Obviously, that they learn after a while what they can how they can behave. And one of the big fears that parents have is like, well, if I allow this behavior at home, then they're just going to melt down, with everybody and just be, out of control. And actually, the complete opposite happens. The more
Mm-hmm.
your child melts down with you at home and you can stay present as much as you can, the easier they are to get along with other children, the easier it is for them to learn and to
Mm-hmm.
sit at school and take in information, because when you're stressed you can't think, you can't learn well. So when your child is relaxed, then they can navigate the challenges, they can navigate the friendship issues much easier. They're going to be less reactive, they're less likely to whack their friend, if they're little, or be mean, or do all of the things that kids do. They're still going to do it to some extent, but they're much less likely to do it. So I think it also gives us parents that deeper understanding of what's really going on with our child, because often you hear from parents going, well, they were perfectly fine, I don't understand what happened, why there was no reason for them to do that. And so to have
Mm-hmm.
that understanding, there's always a valid reason why your child is behaving like that. Because,
Right.
an external observer could see what was happening between me and Emily and just go, well, you're just letting her get away with blue murder. She's just got to learn that she's got to get the plate that she has. And just, there's that saying, isn't it? You get what you get and you don't be upset. You just
Right.
say thank
Hmm.
you.
They said that at my
Which,
daughter's preschool,
yes,
which I loved
which,
that preschool, by the way, but
yes.
maybe not the
And
same.
when you're and when you're managing multiple children, it's completely understandable that our educators use those things.
Totally. Yeah, it's different.
So allowing our children to melt down at home means that they can navigate all of
Mm-hmm.
that outside.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it means also that our children are less likely to be sneaky around us as well. Because sometimes, if you've got your child, you say you've got two children and the older child is upset about the arrival of a baby, after a while they can put a mask on it and just like, and then do subtle things like pinch the baby or do mean things to, if
Mm-hmm.
those of you with multiple children, you might know that this scenario going on, an older child, what? It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. And the child is absolutely wound up the other child. So children need to release their feelings. And if they can't do it in a healthy way with us, it's going to leak out in
Mm-hmm.
unpleasant and perhaps unkind behavior elsewhere. So
Mm-hmm.
when children can have like a big meltdown with
Mm-hmm.
you, they don't need to. So, the number of times I've listened to my older daughter have a big cry,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps she's been mean to her younger brother and vice versa, my younger son with my older daughter,
Mm-hmm.
having a big cry, going, she did this to me. I'm just going to whack her with a baseball bat, or something dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
You help the child. So, I've helped my son with the feelings around that. He can then go and play with his sister so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and you don't have to play cop. You don't have to be referee because you've addressed the issue. Your child is lighter, they're happier, they've released their feelings, they want
Mm-hmm.
to play well with the other child. So then they just go off and
Yeah.
play well.
It's so, I love what you said about if they're not carrying that stress with them at school and with their friends and wherever else they are in the world, then they're less likely to have those difficult behaviors, right? And so when you said that, it made me think of like, oh, it's kind of like, their backpack is full, it's overflowing, backpack being like difficult emotions, stress, whatever it is. And then when they spill it all out with us in a safe, place, then their backpack is empty, they're light. And like you said, it's kind of like now their little nervous system is calm. And so they're not carrying that stress. And so they can learn better, they can take information better, they can get along better with their peers, they can be more flexible with their peers. And I think we all kind of resonate with that. Like kids kind of hold it together during the day, and then they come home and we see that those kind of big emotions come out. And I think most parents can see that. And most parents kind of have that idea of like, oh, I'm the safe place. So I get, for better or worse, I get to see these big emotions. And what you're saying is, not only that, but actually, when they do have those big emotions with that, that is helpful to them because they're going to offload it and then they're going to be lighter. And we're not being permissive and letting them do whatever they want. We're not letting them, like you said, like get the plate. It's just like, okay, this is the storm of their stress and their big emotions. And the storm's going to come and then it's going to pass and then they're going to feel lighter. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I'm wondering, a lot of parents want to respond calmly, right? But their big emotions trigger them, like you said, those thoughts that come up. And I'm wondering, why do you feel like that happens for parents? And how can parents start to manage their own reactions in those moments, even if they're like, I want to stay calm, but this is happening and it's like feels impossible to stay calm.
It really does. It really can feel so difficult. And, we know the theory, and the theory is great. My child needs to let it out with me. This is great. But the reality is, it often happens at really annoying times, like you're cooking dinner, or they've whacked their sibling again, and you're like, oh, that mama bear instinct comes in because you want to
Mhm.
protect the younger child, or it's you're out in public. It can really catch you off guard as well. So that's why, when I said at the beginning, it's best to make the most of those times when you are calm, because you're not going to be able to listen all the time. You're A,
Mhm.
because you're out and about and you might just physically not be able to, but also emotionally you're just like, I can't deal with this right now, just. And then
Mhm.
that's fine to distract and get through it all. but
Yes.
but so that's you've got the everyday stresses that are causing us to just not be able to cope with it. But
Mhm.
then the biggest issue really is our own childhood hurts. So
Mhm.
it's highly unlikely that we were raised. I mean, I've met some people amazing, but who were raised in this way. And our parents loved us and they absolutely did the best that they could. But
Mhm.
nobody, very few people knew to let your child have a massive meltdown and everything would be fine. And
Mhm.
so we've got hurts from our childhood. So,
Right.
what can happen with me, or certainly when my kids were younger, is like I would have this voice in my head going, well, my parents just wouldn't stand for this. And
Mhm.
so then that would rile me up. And I'm like, well, no, I shouldn't stand for this. How dare she behave like this? And so then I would be highly reactive and just shut it down, or just like stop talking like this, and, just
Mhm.
be harsh, because I had my own hurts. I didn't have anybody to listen to me. So
Mhm.
there's a couple of things that you can do. I love how you talk a lot about meditation, and meditation is so helpful to really just sort of try and sort of ground us just in life
Mhm.
in general. But in the heat of the moment, that can often go out the window.
Right.
Um, so it's lovely.
100%.
It's this is why when we go away on retreats for weekends, we can go,
Mhm.
oh, but I'm so calm. And then we step back into our house, and 20 minutes later, we're just like, oh my God.
Right.
Um, so, so one of the things that I found really helpful is something called in hand in hand. We call it a listening partnership.
Mm.
So I think you've spoken about it,
Yes, I do
where
have a
you,
listening partner.
yeah, where you then have it's a very mutual relationship where you meet with somebody else, you divide the time in half, and you spend your time just saying everything that you find really hard. And when
Mhm.
we had given that opportunity to go, my daughter's doing this, it's driving me mad, and
Mhm.
you are being listened to by somebody who's lovingly giving you warm attention and perhaps asking
Mhm.
questions, going, well, how was it for you when you were younger? And then you can go, well,
Mhm.
I don't know. Oh, actually, my dad did this, or my mum didn't do that. And
Mhm.
so that gives an opportunity for those feelings to come up. And then again, for us to release them, because we might have a cry, or
Right.
we might vent and shout at our imaginary parents, um,
Mhm.
and allow ourselves to sort of start the healing process that way. Um, Something
And
else that I do in the heat of the moment
mhm.
um, is that I have to remind myself to connect, because I can know all the theory. I
Mhm.
teach it all
Of
the time. I've had listening time, and yet there's something that can catch me off guard. And so
course.
what I find is that I need to say like a little mantra to myself:
Mm.
connect, connect, connect. It's that
Mhm.
simple, because otherwise I can just like, well, what's happening? Have I done something wrong? Oh, I must have failed her.
Mhm.
Is there anything wrong with her? And I can go all in
Mhm.
panic. So
Mhm.
me just going, connect, Helena, that's all you need to do.
Mhm.
Then I sort of just drop in,
Mm.
and I can just go, okay, How can I
Hmm.
reach my child? What
I
can I
love.
do?
Hmm. Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, one, the listening partner is kind of proactive, right? This person who is warmly listening without judgment or advice. And so then you're kind of proactively giving yourself space to be heard and listened to and offload your own like or fears or whatever. And then the other one is like in the moment. I love that mantra, connect, 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 because it reminds you. And I think it's important what you said earlier that no matter who we are, I swear if Mother Teresa was had kids, like she even wouldn't be able to stay calm in every situation. And I love that hand in hand, Patty Whitfler, I think, says like, it's okay. You're not always going to be able to listen. So if you realize you can't listen, it's okay to walk away. Like you don't have to I don't know what, like you said, if you're out in public and something about being in public is, too, like you can just distract, just get through the moment. Like it's
Yeah.
okay to just do what you have to do to get through the moment. That's totally okay. And like what you said earlier, when we have the space and capacity, and for whatever reason we have, we can be there and we can lean on that tool like connect, 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 and then we can more easily be able to listen. And what I remember, like there would be times when I could listen for 5 minutes and then I had to walk away, and then I would come back and be like, oh, is they still upset? Okay, let's listen some more. And then I would, and so sometimes it was even like fragments of time. Like it would, I couldn't even listen for long periods. So I love those tools. And I'm wondering, you often talk about not being afraid of your children's upset feelings, and that can sound scary for parents. And I'm wondering if you can say a little bit more about how are those moments healing or healing for the kiddo or like kind of a bonding moment for the parent and child.
Yeah. And it is easy to get afraid of the big feelings because we're not used to expressing our own feelings. When we've witnessed or been around other people expressing big feelings, it has generally been really scary because they've been out of control. There's not been anybody sort of holding them emotionally. And, they might be throwing things across the room or saying horrible words that are just you're on the receiving end of, and so that is properly scary. The difference with this is that as the loving adult, as the loving parent, you're there to contain them. So what it's I like viewing it as like I'm providing this container for my child to totally fall apart within, and part of that container is that you've got walls around it. So the number of times I have sat on the kitchen floor in the corner, sort of making a triangle with the cupboards, because then that provides a physical container for the child to fall apart. Now, you're not imprisoning them, but they are just within that space that you can be with them because children don't want to feel those feelings and they will try and distract them and tell you to go away. And it can be very intense. So it's easy to get afraid of those feelings. Um, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can think, well, is there something properly wrong?
Mm-hmm.
But to have that container for your child to really fall apart within, for you to hold them with as much confidence as you can manage,
Mm-hmm.
provide that strength. It's like if you've been upset and you go to a friend and you can tell by the sort of look of horror on their face that they can't handle you being upset,
Right.
then you shut down. You just go, well,
Right.
this is not safe for me to talk to this person
Yeah.
here. They can't
Yeah.
handle it. And
So
then you might start to think, well, I'm too much.
right.
My emotions are
No
too
one can
much.
handle it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas actually us providing that container for our children, it shows them that we're going, I've got you. Whatever you're going through, I've got you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that confidence that I did not feel in the beginning, but I can feel now. And my
Mm-hmm.
children I've got a teenager and a tween. And my teenager doesn't fall apart in this way, but my tween, he's 11, he can have big outbursts like this. And I still have moments going, whew, this is quite intense,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
a bit worried, but I know I trust the process. And so
Mm-hmm.
by me staying close by, my child completely falling apart and offloading everything in articulate and often frequently inarticulate way where they're just going, ah,
Right.
what happens is that they then release everything or release
Mhm.
as much as they're carrying, and then they come out the other side, and you
Mhm.
you can see it in their face. They
Mhm.
are naturally relaxed. So what
Mhm.
might happen is you've got the storm, you've got the storm of the wild feelings, and then
Mhm.
what can happen is that your child can then come and sit quietly on your lap and sob, which we can all pretty much handle that because that's
Right.
so much
Yeah.
easier to deal with. It's like,
Yeah.
please just
We
blow
were
it.
like, well, only if only you would ever sob, that'd be great.
Yeah. So then you can have the sobbing, and it doesn't follow this way all the time, but you can get to that stage where they're sobbing on your lap and you can go, ah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
or what I've had also happen is that at the end of this big storm, suddenly their face clears, they're
Mhm.
happy as Larry, and they jump off and go and play really easily and happily. And you're sitting there going, oh my God, that, what was that? I'm exhausted. But always what happens is afterwards is that because you've held that space for them, they've offloaded their feelings, they
Mhm.
can feel your love again. They
Mhm.
feel their love for you again. There's a softness, and it is deeply connecting, which
Mhm.
sounds strange after you've gone through that storm and your child is telling you that you're the worst mum in the world and go away, I hate you, whatever it is. So those, whatever they say to you in those moments, it's the feelings coming up and out, and
Mhm.
when they've released them, they love you so much, and then they get to feel it again. There's a softness and there is a
Mhm.
deeper connection
Mhm.
afterwards.
Yeah, I love that. And when you said, those, even as adults, we can have that experience of someone shutting us down. It made me think of like people that have experienced grief or that have cancer. Adults talk about that adults in their life don't know what to do with that. And they kind of, like you said, they had that look of panic. And so then the person with grief or that has cancer or something like that they just stop talking, right? Because they can't handle this. I'm going to feel worse. They're going to feel worse. And I love what you said so essentially, like we are humans, we have a range of emotions. We would love it if it was just, I don't know, sad and happy. Or maybe we would prefer just happy, just the good ones, right? But in reality, we get angry, we get frustrated, we get hurt, we get sad, we get all these things. And so I love that idea of the safe container. And then it makes a lot of sense that the child doesn't want to feel it, but they don't really have any choice, like they're feeling it regardless, right? But then they are like, these feelings aren't dangerous. It's okay. It doesn't feel good, but it can move through. It made me also think of like Emily Nagoski talks about the tunnel of emotions, and you want to be able to move all the way through the tunnel, and it feels good to get through the tunnel, right? But at the start of it, it doesn't feel so good. It's dark. In the middle of it, it's kind of dark and scary, but it feels good to go all the way through it. So it makes a lot of sense that for the child, and I've had that experience too, where it's like my kids are just like, oh, they don't say this, but the look on their face is like, thank you for being here with me through this. Thank you for loving me here. It's like clear to them, I love them, even though they were just so angry. Or it's clear to them, I love them, even though they were just so sad and upset and like beside themselves. And I think that's so true what you said. Like the child feels held and seen. And so not only do they have that, like, they feel lighter because they're not carrying around those emotions anymore until the next time, but they also feel that connection with you because you've provided safety and a safe container for them to move through that. That is
Yes,
really,
and just on that, because some people then go, oh, well, then my child just needs to cry, or they need to just go and bash a pillow.
mhm.
The healing part of it happens when it happens with you. So it's not
That's a
just a
great
case
point.
of your child just going off, just go off. Because I hear parents go, well, look, they're really angry and upset. So and they didn't want me there. So I've just said, look, I'm just over here and I'm here for when you're ready.
Hmm.
And children, well, we all need, I mean, yes, we can cry on our own, but the most healing happens when we cry when
Right.
somebody who cares about us is with us. So this is
Mhm.
not just an act of just crying, it is crying
Mhm.
with you. That is
Right.
the key.
Yes, yes. And I love that you don't have to say anything. Like you literally are just sitting there witnessing. You might say, "Oh, we're not going to do that," right? When you're providing that safe container, or you might occasionally say, "I love you," but the it's like a relief just to be I just am sitting here and witnessing. Like I'm just letting you know that I'm here for you through this. And that is a really great point that it's not just them offloading the feelings by themselves because we're human beings. We're wired for connection. Like they need our connection, especially when they're feeling those big emotions, especially because they're scary. Like you said, they can be scary for the child. They may look angry on the outside, but it's scary to feel really angry for them. And so, yeah, that part too is so important that they need us through that. And um, when you talk about connection and play being just as important as listening to tears, could you say a little bit more about how play is a powerful tool for helping children with their emotions?
Yes, because I remember listening to Brene Brown when she was talking a lot about vulnerability, and she really shares about how if you shut down the vulnerable soft side, like the sad part, if you try and suppress that, you also suppress the joy. And
Mm,
so actually what we all need is the full range of both.
mm,
So to couple the tears and the tantrums, we also need joy and love and play and laughter. And play is particularly helpful because the part of our brain, is the limbic system that controls play. That is the playful center of our brain. And so that's got nothing to do with language. It's very much about connection. It's our long-term memory. It's communication. So it's not about impulse control and language and thinking of consequences. So actually, when
right.
we
That's all the
play,
prefrontal cortex, isn't it? So
yes,
yeah, okay. So that's interesting. The limbic system is the center for play, and it's kind of like a deeper part of our brain, huh? Like a older
yes,
part. Sorry to
yes.
interrupt. This
No,
is
no, no,
just
not at all.
great
So then
information.
So what happens is that when we play, we bypass all the rational thinky part of the brain because
Mm,
your child rationally knows not to hit their brother and yet
mhm,
they still do it. And they do that
mhm,
because they've got upset feelings. So
mhm,
actually play, it's not a trivial thing to do at all. It's
mhm,
so vital and helpful and powerful way to help your child. And particularly well, for any scenario. So it's very good for aggression and particularly also for anxiety. And so one
mhm,
of the things, with our children when they are anxious, and if, we might start to label them, they have anxiety. So
mhm,
what I would really encourage you to do if your child is anxious about something is to recognize that they have upset feelings that are
mhm,
keeping them from they're keeping them stuck from being
mhm,
able to participate in the world and with other people around them fully and bring play. So allow your child to cry and to rage and get upset about things, but also do fun, simple things. Like you said at the very beginning, a chasing game. It's
mhm,
so simple.
mhm,
Everybody here's probably done it with their children.
mhm,
But what's so powerful about it is that we allow our children, we instinctively play this way. We instinctively
mhm,
go, "Oh, you're too fast for me. I can't reach you." And the
mhm,
child goes, "Yeah," and runs away and thinks they're brilliant.
mhm,
And what that does is that it gives our children a sense of competence and power
mhm,
and strength and going, "Yeah, I'm really good at this," which all children love to feel. And
mhm,
so when we can appear to be weaker than them and slower than them, that gives them even more of a boost, which
mhm,
then helps them to feel more physically confident, which then translates into feeling more emotionally confident. The other
mhm,
thing is that laughter, just like tears helps to release stress, laughter is a brilliant
mhm,
way to release stress, which is why, comedians, they talk about dark subjects. We
mhm,
laugh inappropriately because we feel uncomfortable, but it's actually a really good release about things that are dark and difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
to have that laughter. So if you're doing something with your child and they are giggling, keep
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Even though you think it's ridiculous, just keep doing
Mm-hmm.
it, because that they're releasing tension as well, in which also connecting, and then play simple games like a chasing game. Hide and
Mm-hmm.
seek is fantastic for separation anxiety. You don't know where your child is. And again, you've probably done this loads of times already. So it's helpful to know that these simple games are actually deeply powerful. You can
Mm-hmm.
see your child clearly because they're not hiding very well. I wonder where Johnny is. Where is Johnny?
Mm-hmm.
There you are. So you can't find them. So aren't isn't your child clever for being able to hide so well? And then suddenly the reconnection. Oh, there you are, and you offer the huge delight in finding them again. That is just
Mm-hmm.
so warming for the child to experience that.
I mean, this is one of the main things that your tools have helped me with because like what you said about it bypasses, I think I don't remember how you said it exactly. It bypasses the play bypasses the prefrontal cortex, which is so like my son has anxiety around shots. And so you helped me with we might want to sit down and talk to our child about like we want we tell me what you're anxious about. What are you scared about? Well, the doctor's nice. Well, this is going to help you, right? And we want to talk, 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 talk. And I'm sure if any of you have had kids who are anxious about stuff like that, sometimes people will say it helps. Great. If it does, maybe your kiddo is just advanced, in their language. But for most kids, I would say, and including mine, talking about it doesn't help. So what I did was played. I played. We played like we got a cup even of it was blood draw. So we got like dyed the water red and we pretended that we were gonna, what that would look like. And we got the thing that you put around the arm and he would be silly and the other two joined in and we would laugh and it was so helpful to know not only was the play helping him, it's kind of like exposure therapy where you're exposed to the thing you're scared of, but it's in a safe way, it's in a playful way. He could run away or I could pretend to be the patient, I could run away, we could be silly and laugh, we could just he could throw the needle because he can't do that in the doctor's office. Hopefully, he doesn't run away. Um, and so it was hugely powerful. And using play like that has helped so many parents with those kinds of specific, like you said, separation anxiety. That's huge for kids. You have helped me so many times walk through how can I bring play to this situation? Because as much as we want to like talk to our kids about it and we want them to talk to us about it, that is not as fruitful as many of us hope. But playing through it, I have seen that work and work and work. And it is like a so it's so rewarding for us as the parents and for the kids. And it's another way of bonding, right? And like you said, like, oh, what a nice thing that play is just as important as listening to tears because it's kind of nice to have those two balance them out. Um, and so another thing I wanted to ask you about is parents feeling stuck in patterns like yelling and power struggles and frustrations. And I'm wondering what shifts when parents start using a playful approach to those things. It's kind of these are the things that you teach in your program, Annoying to Amazing, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think it gives us permission. Like, I didn't know that I could be playful in these situations, which I know sounds ridiculous because it's not like we need permission to do everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But to have that sense of, oh, actually, I'm being a really good parent right now by chasing my child around the house before bed.
mm-hmm,
Because this is actually a really good strategy. Because normally we are so, like you're saying, we talk, talk, talk. We probably over explain about why you need to go to bed now because you need to get sleep. Otherwise, you're going to be tired. And I mean, your child could not care less about that.
right.
Whereas what they really want, our children just have an insatiable thirst for us, for just
Mm-hmm.
our presence and our delight and our joy about being with them, which we can't give them all the time. Even if we are at home with them during the day, we can't possibly offer that to our children.
Mm-hmm.
And especially then if we're at work. So having play, like you can do it in 10 minutes. You can play a chasing game and you can have variations of like, I'm the scared, if your child is scared of monsters, I'm a scary monster and you are the least scary monster because you bump into doorways and you
Mm-hmm.
fall over. And so there's something that your child can laugh about, release the tension about potential scary monster, then feel really strong because then they jump on the scary monster and they push the scary monster over. The amount of wrestling I've done with my son on the bed because it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So the play gives us permission that we don't have to be serious all the time. You don't have to keep teaching your children that it's not okay to say rude words. It's not okay to hit your sister. When you
Mm-hmm.
can reach your child emotionally, the
Mm-hmm.
the better behavior comes more naturally and it just
Mm-hmm.
flows. So play is brilliant and it's easy and you get to
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it too. Whenever I play with my child, and often to begin with, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to play. Do I have to play? I don't want to play. But
Yes.
5 minutes of play, you feel good. So it brings joy to your life as parents as well, because we've got enough on our plate, with
Right.
everything. So to
Mm-hmm.
have playfulness in our lives, I like my children better after I have played with them. And I also then, when I have played and given my children that delight and joy and fun, when it then does
Mm-hmm.
come time to a limit, especially now it's bedtime, or no, you can't have
Mm-hmm.
another biscuit, I feel more
Mm-hmm.
confident bringing those limits because I have given my children all of that fun stuff at the other
Mm-hmm.
times. Or,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit earlier. So the play coupled with the listening and the limits, that transforms everything.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And can you say a little bit more about your course, Annoying to Amazing?
Yes, I've called it annoying to amazing because it
Which is
was
a great
designed
title. I love that title. I mean,
to
yes, every parent
address,
is like, yes, please.
because as much as we sort of like, I understand my children's emotions, you know, our children can still be very annoying and their
Mm-hmm.
behaviors can be very annoying. And I think sometimes it's helpful just to really acknowledge this is really annoying. And
Mm-hmm.
also then to go, well, actually, what does my child really need? Probably a
Mm-hmm.
quick 5 minute chasing game can
Mm-hmm.
transform so much, and there may
Mm-hmm.
be a limit. So I'm wanting to give the tools in a very practical, real world examples of how you can then bring it to your child. And actually, what I include is I've got quite a few videos of me setting limits with my young son who's between 1 and 3 to 4 years old. So you get
Mm-hmm.
to see it in action because, the theory
Mm-hmm.
is great, but then, well, what does it look like? And if my child's
Right.
doing this, so I really
Mm-hmm.
want to just give as much as possible. It's got tons of games ideas in there, and also really explaining what do you do in order to set a limit, and set a
Mm-hmm.
limit not in a stop doing that kind of way, but in a sweetheart, no, I'm not going to let you hit your brother kind of
Mm-hmm.
way, and how to
Yeah.
go through that. So, and the other side of that is, yes, it's to help our children move from annoying to amazing, but also for us too. How do
Mm-hmm.
we stop responding in an annoying way? And I had one parent go, "We definitely feel like less annoying and more amazing parents," which is my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is for parents to
Yeah.
feel more confident knowing how to respond
Mm-hmm.
to these everyday challenges.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds amazing. And I love the real world examples and having it modeled because, like you said, we can read it in a book and then we're like, yes, that's great. And then we sit down with our kids and we're like, and what is happening? And what did he say? And we can get flooded with all those thoughts. And so, yeah, I love that. I love the practicality and the real life examples. And I have to say, you have helped me so much. I have been in your course, what is it called? The Play Collective, because I have found it hard to play as well. I'm like, I get the science, I get the theory, I believe in it. I still struggle and you're like just shifting like I had a lot of have tos and it should look like this and it's supposed to be this and all that rigidity is kind of the opposite of like lightheartedness and playful. And so you have been so helpful in just helping me get clear about what are my blocks and And even long ago when we first met and you were just helping me coach one to one, like your presence and your compassion, it really, I mean, I feel like you saved my life in a lot of ways because I was in a really dark place. And I talk about this a lot, filled with shame and sadness. And I felt like I was failing as a parent. And just that warm presence that you gave me, and you kept saying, what you're doing is really hard. You have three kids under the age of three, or you have littlies, what I love with your English accent. You have you have three littlies. And I'm like, is that a lot? Does this seem like a lot to you? And the
Yes, it
just
is.
the way that you would have so much compassion for me, and like you said about, you didn't freak out. You weren't like, oh my gosh, Michelle, like, yes, this is bad, you should be worried, you should be concerned for yourself, for your kids. You're just like, yeah, of course you're having big emotions, and yeah, your kids do too, and that's okay. And your presence of like steady, calm, it's gonna be okay, helped me kind of start to feel like, oh, maybe it's gonna be okay. And maybe I'm not failing, and maybe it is a lot. And so I'm not surprised that so many other parents get so much benefit from your programs because you're just an awesome person and awesome parent coach.
Thank you. I
And
love hearing that because that's my ultimate goal is for us to feel confident as parents so that we can really be with our kids. Because when I
Mhm,
started out, I was like, I've completely stuffed things up with my daughter. Can I just give her to somebody else? Like, sending her off to puppy school. Can somebody else just take her, fix everything that I've done wrong, and then give her back to me? And of
mhm,
course, that's not going to happen. So,
mhm,
for I know what it's like to feel that you're failing your child and you're
mhm,
having a really hard time with children. Um, and I also know what it's like to receive loving support and support, be supportive of how we are. So that's my ultimate goal is to offer that to parents that, yeah, you are having a hard time because it is hard. And
mhm,
here's some things that can help. But also, I'm
mhm.
here by your side as you get through it.
Yes, and also I forgot to say you have a podcast too. So I know that you don't record regularly, but you can still go check it out because there's so many great episodes on there. And I've gotten to be on your podcast a couple times.
Twice, yes, which is great.
What is it
Parenting with
called?
Play podcast.
Parenting with Play. Yes. So
Yes.
go check
And
out
even though
that
it is, we do say, parenting with play, I do talk a lot about listening to crying and tantrums as well. It
podcast.
is the whole gamut because you can't just play. Because if you just played, that would be distracting. And that is sort of, it can be superficial, but actually having the depth of, I'm
Hmm.
also there for the hard times too,
Hmm.
that gives it a real richness.
Yes, I love that. So I'm going to ask one final question. So many parents listening right now, just like we were just talking about, worry that they're messing things up with their kids. If a parent is feeling stuck in guilt or shame about how they've handled things in the past, what would you want them to know?
We all stuff up our kids, all of us, every single person, even the best person, we all stuff up our kids. And I think when we can then go to, okay, I've stuffed up, I haven't done that right, then it's helpful to take some pressure off ourselves to know that you're not going to get it perfect. You are going to have times where you stuff it up.
Hmm.
And it is also really possible to repair. And actually, Kiara and I, you worked with beautiful Kiara, we've got this great workshop actually that we did about repair, which is like
Hmm.
looking at those times when you've shouted at your kids, you've done something you know that you shouldn't have done, which is such a great example of how our kids hit each other and do all the things that they know not to do. So we know what not to shout at our kids, and yet we still do it. But it is so possible to repair and to repair in a way that is with integrity and brings deeper connection because all relationships have some form of rupture. And what makes a relationship stronger is then how you then repair it. And it
Hmm.
is so possible to overcome those things that you shouldn't have done. And then later on, your children will mention it and you can all laugh about it together. Um, but knowing that you can repair, and actually by having the tools of being able to play, allowing your child to push you over, to feel strong and powerful again, particularly after you've just shouted at them and they felt
Mhm.
scared. That's incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine doing that as a child, and now seeing the effects on my own children, knowing that they're not scared of me. Wish they were sometimes, but they're not.
Mhm.
They're not, because they have
Yeah.
that opportunity, and also that they can cry. They can cry and rage and tell you, I hated it when you did that. Again, I can't
Mhm.
imagine doing that to my parents when I was little. So to give our children that opportunity to really be real about how they are, so that they can release it, they can come through the other side and have a deeper sense of connection with you. It is so possible. So, and I think also when we can take the pressure off ourselves thinking we need to be perfect, that
Mm.
also takes the pressure off our children thinking that they need to be perfect, because they're not going to be perfect.
Oh, that's good.
Oh,
If
thanks.
only we
Tell I've
could
been working on this.
step out of the
My own life.
pressure to be perfect. You're just like spoke straight to my soul there. So what you're saying is for these parents that feel this way, we all stuff it up. Parent coaches like you, therapists like me, we
Yeah.
all stuff it up and repair is possible. That's
So possible. Yeah.
beautiful. So Helena, where can people find you? Where can people learn more about working with you?
Thank you. I am at helenamooney.com. So come and find me there. And if you want to jump straight to find out more about the Annoying to Amazing program, it's helenamooney.com/amazing. And then I am on Instagram. I am now just trying to find my handle. It's Instagram. I'm Helena Mooney _parenting with play on Insta. So come and find me there, because I share videos
Cool.
about tips and tricks and podcasts and everything like that. So yeah.
Yes, your videos are really helpful. So I'll try to be fancy and put all that in the show notes like people do, like these
Yeah.
podcasters
Proper
do.
professional podcasters.
Thank you so much, Helena. I so appreciate you taking the time to join us today as our very first guest. It's very exciting.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I've loved having you on my show too. And just working with you over the years. I've loved it. And I get so much pleasure because working with people like you for over a period of time, obviously I don't meet your children directly, but I really get to know about them and to see how you evolve as a mum too, and how you handle, some trickier situations as they get older. And that's the beauty. It's never too late to start this way of parenting, so if anybody's listening with older children going, oh, I've done everything wrong beforehand, again, we all stuff up, but it's never too late to start playing with our children and listening to them. So I've really loved working with you over the years, so thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Helena. All right, everybody, leave comments. Join us for the next show. Thank you. And oh, the light in me sees the light in you. Be well.